right, Shalom Aleichem. We are holding Tet Vav Amud Aleph. If you're in the Hebrew, it's about 12 lines up from the bottom of the page of 15A4 in the English. We start on the top in the English, 15A4. Dini Nefashot. We're going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah that started off Masechet Sanhedrin was different cases. How many judges do you need for all different types of cases? And we said that monetary cases of money and knas, these usually 3 judges can do, whether you need 3 real judges, 3 regular people. We went through those dinim already. Then we started talking about capital punishment. Capital punishment we know has to be with 23 judges. One of the cases that brought down was the case of what's known in English as bestiality, which is basically a animal that lays with a human, whether it be female or male or female who lay with a animal, and they have a relation. If witnesses are there and they see and they warn and everything is as established, this case is judged in front of 23 judges. That was the Mishnah said. Now, the Gemara starts off, Ka pastik v'taneh. The Mishnah taught this categorically, meaning in all cases, it's always going to be 23 judges for deciding the fate of the ox and the animal, as well as the fate of the male and the female. Lo shana, now the Gemara explains, what does it mean categorically? Lo shena rovea zachar, v'lo shena rovea nekeva. It doesn't make a difference if the animal was the one who sodomized the man, or animal was the one who sodomized the woman. Okay, so speaking, the way the Gemara is trying to explain here is as follows. The animal can be the sodomizer, I mean, it does something to someone, or something can happen to the animal. Right, this has happened especially when the human is a male. The male is able to sodomize the animal, and is also able to make the animal sodomize him. Okay, the animal penetrates him, or he penetrates the animal. Whereas when it comes to the female, it's always going to be the animal penetrating the female. So that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, when it comes to the animal sodomizing the female, this we have a pasuk, as it says, "Dichtiv v'harakta et ha'isha ve'et ha'behema." You're going to kill the woman and the man. El rovea zachar manalan. But how do we know that if the ox, the animal, sodomized a man, how do you know that you have to kill them both? Because it only talks about getting sodomized when the Torah says that the animal sodomizes something, talks about the animal sodomizing a woman. It doesn't say it about a man. So how do I know that he's going to also be hayav mita? El reya zachar menalan. So the Gemara answers dichtiv, because it says there's going to be 2 psukim in the Torah. One in Sefer Shemot, one in Sefer Vayikra, and both of them say that if a man sodomized a animal, you put them both to death. The Gemara says, it says, Kol shochet im behema mot yumat. If anyone lays with a behema, you have to kill them. In this week's parsha in Kedoshim, we're going to have a similar pasuk. So why do you have 2 psukim? Im eno inyan l'shochet. If it's not for the one where the man is sodomizing the beast, because you have 2 psukim, you don't need 2 of them to tell me the same din. Tenehu inyan l'nishkav. So teach one of them is where the animal is the one who sodomizes the man. And yet the Torah said it as if the man was sodomizing the ox. Why did it say it this way? Why didn't you just explain it the right way? Why does the Torah say the same din, man sodomizing an ox twice, and then we say, oh, one of them means if the ox sodomizes the man? Just say it the way it's supposed to be. So why did it say it this way? To compare a sodomized man to a sodomizer. To say it's the same din. When a man sodomizes an ox and the ox sodomizes a man, It's both. It's looked in the halacha point as if the man sodomized the ox. And if he sodomized the ox, him and the animal are judged by 23 judges. And so too, if now the animal sodomized him, both he and his animal are going to be judged by a court of 23. Okay? So far, so good? All right. The next topic is Shor HaNiskal. Shor HaNiskal, be'esim u'shlosha. What is a Shor HaNiskal? Shor HaNiskal literally means a ox that is stoned. What happens here, this is an ox that kills. This ox killed a person. As such, even if it was, everyone learned Mesachas Bava Kama, you have a tam and a mu'ed, but if he kills a person, no matter what time, he's already sentenced to stoning. Now, what does stoning mean? Anytime you have, we say sekila, serifa, erik vehenik. What does it mean, sekila, when it means to stone? La halacha, what they did, what the Beit Din did when someone was chayav skila, is they took him about 4 meters high off the ground, and then they would throw him. I was told they throw him backwards. He hits the ground. If he's not yet dead, then the witnesses who came and gave their testimony that led to his sentencing, they throw the first stones at him, and then the rest of the nations throw stones at him. So that's what it means, tekilah. So we have here as follows: an ox that gored, that killed a person, is now chayav mitah, known as Shor HaNiskal. The pasuk says as follows. Let's take a look. Shnema, Chet, Hashor Yisakel, the ox you stone, Vegam Ba'alav you mat, and also the owner is killed. This is the Shor HaYisakel, the ox that killed someone, you stone him. Vegam Ba'alav you mat, and also the owner dies. Now, the Gemara said, what does this mean? Also, the owner dies. It doesn't mean you actually kill the owner. It means ba'alim kach mitat hashor. The same way that you would kill a man, a person, a human, this is the same way you kill the ox. Meaning, you don't just kill the ox, you have to take him to court. He has to be judged by 23 judges. You don't need to have these animal equal rights protection activists. You have here, the Gemara tells us the halacha is, when an animal is sentenced to death, it goes to court, it goes to Beit Din. 23 judges judge the ox. And that's what it means. It says, V'gam ba'alav yumat, to tell us that the same way a person would die, would be killed by Beit Din, the same way you would kill a ox by bringing him to Beit Din and then getting sentenced there and carrying out the sentence. Now, Amrullah Abaya Laro. Now, Abaya wants to know, why are we learning it this way? Why are you telling me when the pasuk says and the owner should die, that it means that you kill the ox like you would kill the person, meaning to take him to Beit Din of 23 judges? Why are you saying that? Ema likatala hu de'ata. Learn the pasuk as simply put. The pasuk simply says, if the ox killed somebody, the ox is killed, and the owner of the ox is killed. Why can't I learn it that way? Why can't I just learn it simply? Why have to tell me it means that you take him to court? No, it means kill the ox, kill the person. So Rava says he can't learn it the simple pshat. Why? Because if it meant that the ox is killed and the person is killed, lichtov, it should have written Begam be'alav v'lishtok, and then not say the word yumat and keep quiet. It should have said Shor Yisakel, stone the ox, Begam ba'alav, and also the owner, and keep quiet. Then I would know you stone the ox, stone the person. The fact that it says yumat, Begam ba'alav yumat, why I need the word yumat? So Rabbi says the word yumat is telling me it's not that we kill the person, but rather we learn that the way you would kill a person, meaning 23 judges, you also need 23 judges for the ox. That's the Rava says. The word yumat shows me it's not used to kill the person. Now, Abaye says to Rava, not necessarily true. Just because the word yumat doesn't tell me that it's coming to compare the ox to the animal. Why I need the word yumat? Because if it would have just said vigam ba'alav, and also the owner, what would I think? The same way you kill the ox, the same way you kill the owner, hava amina biskila, that you also have to stone him. Now, stoning is the worst type of death. The order of the death is actually a machloket. Which one is worse? Which one is better? I mean, I don't know which one is worse, which is better. Whoever got killed, you can go ask them how it felt and then rank it and make a research out of that. But it's hard to do that because they're all dead. So therefore, we have to go with what the Gemara tells us. But everyone agrees the sekila is the worst type of death. Whether herig or henik, whether the sword or the strangulation, they would take a scarf, wrap it around someone's neck, and then two people would pull it and he would die, suffocate and die. That was strangulation. And then sword is basically chop his head off. So which one is worse is a machloket. But what Abaye is saying, the word yumat is telling me kill him, but don't kill him through skila. Meaning, if it would have just said vigam ba'alav, I would have thought you have to kill the owner also with stoning, which is the worst type of death. Now it tells me yumat tells me he has to die, but don't kill him with stoning. Kill him with strangulation. You pull the scarf on his neck, two people, and you kill him that way, which according to some opinions is the least harsh of all the deaths punishments. So now Rava says, Rava says, why would I think that he gets sekila? Why would I think the owner would get sekila? And that's why I need yumat to tell me it's not sekila. No, I don't need yumat to tell me that I don't give him sekila, because I would not give him skila anyway. Why? Skila sakedatach, you would think to give him skila? Katal iyu v'saif mamona b'skila. Rabbi says very simple. He says if a person actually killed another person, he actually murdered someone. How do you punish someone who murdered someone? L'halakha, you kill him with the sword, which is less than sekila, right? I told you it's machloket whether sword or strangulation is the least of all death punishments, but it's definitely lower than sekila. So now mamona biskila, now that his property damaged, property killed, so now you're going to kill him with stoning? No, you're definitely not going to kill him with stoning. So the word yumat, I don't need the word yumat to tell me take him down from sekila and bring him down to a lower level, because I never would have thought he would have got sekila. Therefore, yumat I'm going to use to tell me you don't kill the person. Rather, you compare the death of a human to the death of an animal. You need 23 judges. Now, Abaye now asked another question to Rava. The Dilma, hadichtav rachmana yuman la'akulei ilave la'afukim misaif lehenik. No, Abaye says, you know what? You're right. You said you wouldn't have thought to give him sekila, because if he killed someone himself, he only gets the sword, and sword is less than stoning. So maybe the word yumat is coming to tell us to take him from the sword punishment and give him the strangulation punishment, which is less. Maybe that's what the word yumat is telling us. To take him from the sword and bring him to the strangulation one. Now, the Gemara says, in Rava, Ani chalamanda Omer chenik chomer. Now, this, according to Rava, who said that the yumat is extra, this makes sense if you continue to learn that chenik, the strangulation, is worse than the sword. Then therefore, since I think he would get the sword, and the sword is the lowest, there's nowhere lower to go. Therefore, the yumat is extra, and the yumat can be used to compare the death, but not say that he has to die. But if you would go with the opinion that strangulation is actually the least worst of all the death punishments, my ikilamema. Then what would you say according to Rava? Because Rava, you said that yumat is used to compare, but if Sayif, the sword, is a worser punishment, then the word yumat should come, like Abaya says, to teach us to take him from the sword and tell him to kill him with strangulation instead. So right now, at this point, we don't really have a place to tell us for sure that the person cannot die because his ox killed somebody. So the Gemara says from Rava says, no. Don't even think that he would have to die. Why? It says, Im kofer yushat alav. It says over there that the ox's owner has to pay for the death that he did, whatever damages he did in part of the death. You kill the ox, and the owner has to pay. And if you think this pasuk says that he has to be killed, also the owner. But we know that if someone has to die, if the Beit Din has to kill somebody, they cannot take his money instead. You cannot have bribes. You cannot. It's not communist Russia where you take a bribe for everything. The person lahalacha, and the Beit Din says he has to be killed. He has to be killed. There is no two ways about it. So, if the Torah is telling you that the owner of the murderous ox can pay a ransom, he can pay money, then it must be that he never was chayav mitah. Because if he was chayav mitah, he would not be allowed to pay money. That's what Rava says. Abaye says, no, exactly the opposite. Adarabba, exactly the opposite. Mashum hi gufa. Exactly because of this, the Torah says, Katal iyu lo tiskele b'muna elo b'ktalat. Tal sharo miprok nafshe b'memona. Really, the truth, Rabbi says as follows. Rabbi says, really, he is chayav mitah. But usually when a person kills another person, then we don't let him pay a ransom. But the psukim especially comes here to tell you, even though he's chayav mitah, but since because his shor did it, his ox did it, and it wasn't him himself, therefore we'll allow him to pay a ransom. But really he is chayav mitah. We're making an exception here because his ox did it and not him. That's the way Abaya looks at it. So again, Abaye and Rava, no proof from either way that it's really that you don't kill the person and rather you just compare the deaths. Till we get to this phase, and we're up to 15b2. Eila Omar Chizkiah. Rather, Chizkiah says, Chein Tona Devei Chizkiah. And so it was taught in the Braita of Chizkiah. Amar Kera, it says in Pasuk, Mot Yumat Hamakeh Roseahu. Kill the person, kill the one that killed, because he is a murderer. Al Ritzihato Ata Horgo. If someone killed, that's the one you kill. The Ata Horgo Al Ritzihat Choro. But if you don't execute him for his ox killing. Meaning it says that if he's a killer, you kill him. If he himself didn't kill, then you don't kill him. And that's how we know we don't kill the owner of the murderous ox as well. So rather, Begam ba'alav yumat means you have to bring the ox to court, just as you would have brought the person to court and have 23 judges judging the case. This is this topic. Any questions on this so far? Okay. If you have any questions, you can feel free to jump in. They asked as follows. Shor Sinai Bikama. Shor Sinai. What is the Shor Sinai? All right. The Gemara's question is, Migamar Sha'a Midorot Olo. Okay. What does this mean? Shor Sinai. Simply put, when Hashem gave the Torah in Har Sinai, which is the Yom Tov that's coming up, Be'ezrat Hashem, Shavuot in a few more weeks, right? Less than 5 weeks already. And we're going to have Shavuot. Now, what does it mean, Matan Torah? When Hashem gave the Torah, Hashem said, when I come down to Har Sinai, no one can be on the mountain. No person, no ox, nothing can be there. In fact, if an ox or an animal goes on there, they're Hayav Mitah. So now the question is, Let's say an ox went on the mountain. Now you have to kill the ox. How many judges do you need? Do we compare the ox that went on Har Sinai at the time that you weren't allowed to? Because today you're allowed to go on Har Sinai. You can find it. Go ahead on it and sit in it all you want. But at that time, there was a sha'ah. There was a temporary halacha that you're not allowed to go on Har Sinai. Do we compare temporary halacha to a halachot that lasts throughout the generation? We have the shor and iskal that we just talked about. We have the animal that was laid with the human. All these things. Do we compare Shor Sinai that went on a mountain during a temporary Isser? Do we compare him to the Dorot and he needs 23 judges, or what do we do with this Shor Sinai? So Toshma, the Gemara gives and answers. The Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel taught in the Braita. It have a pasuk in Shemot. It said, Im behema, im ish lo yihyeh. When it says over there by the Torah, it says about Har Sinai, it says, Im behema, im ish. If animal, if man, lo yihyeh. He won't live. So what does this mean? You have to kill him. Now, ma ish, by a man we know for sure, you need 23. Ma ish b'chav gimel, af behema b'chav gimel. So too, by behema also has to be with 23. Now, the Gemara never actually answered its original question. The Aruch LaNer points this out. The Gemara says, do we compare the temporary Isser to a halacha that's forever? And the Gemara said, the answer is because it says in Har Sinai, Im behema, im ish. It never said if we compare it or not. We know the halacha what Har Sinai would be, but we don't know if we would compare a temporary Isser to an Isser that is forever. So that part of the question wasn't answered. The Shor Sinai, we do have an answer. Now, I brought down here from the Mitifta, he brings down from the Tosefot on the side, Tosefot Shor Sinai Bekama, he asks the question, why are the Bnei Yeshiva asking this? What difference does it make? It already happened. It already happened. Why are you making a big deal about this? And Rabbeinu Peretz asks even more, that you can't just say, "Oh, they're just learning to get schar," learning to learn without any practical ramifications. Because here they're asking, "But kama, how much?" Like they really want to know, and it's like it's as if it's going to make a difference. So they do bring Tirutzim. Tosafot says it does make a difference because you want to explain the pasuk, you have to explain the pasuk. You have to kill the man or the animal by how many. Rabbeinu Peretz says it also depends if a person says, I'm going to become a Nazir, if when a Shor went on Sinai, they would judge him with 23 judges. If that was halakha, then I become a Nazir. Or if somebody says, the Meiri says, if somebody says, I'm going to give tzedakah, and I'm going to dress up poor people for the amount of judges that there were that would judge an ox that went up in Har Sinai during the Isser, and they weren't allowed to go up. So all these cases, you really have to know, if it was 23, 3, or whatever it was, you would have to know the difference. This is the way Tosafot and Rabbeinu Peretz explain the practicality of knowing how many were actually there. Okay. Next to you. The Mishnah talked about animals, wild animals. And it brought down a whole list of animals. It said that if you have these animals, as a machloket, what happens with them? It says over here, Haze'ev, a wolf, V'ha'ari, a lion, V'hadov, the bear, V'hanemer, a leopard, V'habardilas, and a bardilas. When we went in the beginning, it was either a polecat or some other type of animal. V'hanochash, and the snake. Mitatan be'esim u'shosha. Their death is with 23. In order to judge these animals, these wild animals, you have to judge them with 23. Now, Eliezer Omer, the Mishnah says, Kol hakodem lohargan zacha. Anyone who kills him first acquires. They get their zochet to something. Rabbi Kiva Omer, mitatam be'esim u'shosha. They die with 23. So now the Gemara is going to explain what's going on here. When are we killing these animals? Right away, or once they did something? So let's see. Amar Reish Lakish. Vehu shehem mitu. This is if a lion actually killed a person. Then you kill him. You kill the lion. Avaloy mitu, low. But if a lion is just strolling around someone's property and the guy has a lion as a pet, you can't kill him. Why? Alma Kishaver. Like you think these people who say the Shlakish who says you can't kill the lion, you just see a lion walking around in some store, you can't kill him. Why? Yesh lahen tarbut, yesh lahen ba'alim. That you can tame them. You can tame wild animals. You can control them, and you can become their owner. And since they belong to somebody, they're someone's property, you can't kill them. Rabbi Yochanan says no. What does it mean you can kill them? Even if they didn't kill yet. Wild animals are wild animals. You cannot tame them. You cannot tame a lion. No such thing as a tame lion. And since they cannot be tamed, they're not pets. They cannot be controlled. They don't have owners. And then it's hefker. It's ownerless. And as such, everyone can come and kill them. Now, Tanam, we learned in our Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kol HaKodem L'Horgan Zacha. Whoever kills them first is Zacha. He acquires something. Now, Bishleim and Rabbi Yochanan. It's all good according to Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Rabbi Yochanan says you don't wait for the animal to kill someone. You immediately go and kill the lion. You don't wait for the lion to kill. So what does this mean? L'mai Zacha. What is he acquiring? Zacha L'Oran. He gets to acquire their hide, their skin. He's able to take the lion's head and put it over his fireplace, on his mantle over there. Now he's able to put that up. He's zachat to the actual lion that he killed. Ela Reish Lakish. But according to Reish Lakish, who said that he has to kill first, and then you have to take him to Betin with 23, Lamai zachat. Kivan shehemitu, shenevehu Rabbanan kemand gamre dinhu. It's as if 23 judges judged him. Ve'isure hanadinhu. And once Betin says something has to be killed, something has to happen, it becomes Asr Behano. You're not allowed to benefit from it anymore. Whatever the Betin says has to be killed, you cannot have Hana from it anymore. So therefore, what is he Zocheh? When Rabbi Eliezer said anyone who kills him first is Zocheh, according to Reish Lakish, who says you have to take him to Betin, 23 judges, so then it becomes Asr Behana. So what could you be Zocheh? What did you acquire? So my Zachah, what did he acquire? Zachal Shamayim. He acquired a mitzvah of protecting the people. He got a huge mitzvah. Tana Keveted the Reish Lakish. Brisa was taught according to Reish Lakish. Ehad Shor Shehemit. Whether an ox kills. Behema Behaya Shehemitu. Whether it was an animal or a wild beast that killed. Bechav Gimel. You need Chav Gimel. You need 23. And that's the way the Rambam brings the halacha l'maaseh. He writes that an animal that killed a person is sentenced to death by 23 judges, according to the opinion of Reish Lakish. This includes undomesticated animals such as a lion or a leopard, if they were tamed and had owners. So if your friend next door has a lion running around, you can't do nothing to the lion. It's just, he has to control him and tame him. You can't kill that lion. The lion has to have killed before you can punish the lion. Now, Rabbi Eliezer says, "Shor shehemid beisim shosha." Rabbi Eliezer says, "No. An ox, yes, you need 23. Ushar behema mechayat." But any other animal or wild beast that kills, whoever else kills any other animal, you don't need to bring him to court of 23. Anyone who kills them, and is zacheh l'shamayim. He gets a mitzvah l'shamayim. You don't need to take him to court. Only animal you have to bring to court is the ox. Because Gamba Alav Yumat is by the ox. They compare the ox to the human. With all the other animals, you don't have this comparison according to Rabbi Eliezer. Therefore, you don't have to bring them to court. We do not paskin like Rabbi Eliezer in this case. But let's take a look at the next. Rabbi Akiva Omer. Now, Rabbi Akiva in the Mishnah also said you need 23. Gemara says Rabbi Akiva Hani Tanakama. That's the Tanakama. Tanakama, the first rabbi in the Mishnah, also said you need 23. So what is Rabbi Akiva adding on? Ikabenahu Nahash. The difference is by Nahash, by the snake, the last on the list. The last on the list, Rabbi Akiva argues. That's why he says you need 23 in the others, but not by the Nahash. Why is that not by the Nahash? So Tosafot, Rabbi Yochanan, halfway through, he says, because we have a teaching in Baba Kama that says that v'hanahash mu'ed le'olam, a venomous snake is considered ready to strike at all times. He's never considered tamed or controlled. Therefore, when it comes to a snake, you do not need 23. You do not need 23. You can kill him right away. You don't need to wait for the 23 judges. Now, what happened just now? Now we have Rabbi Akiva who says by a snake you don't need 23. And we also have Rabbi Eliezer who said on all undomesticated animals you don't need 23. Reish Lakish says you need 23 in all of them. So when it came to the first case, Reish Lakish versus Rabbi Eliezer, and all the animals except for the snake, we said the halacha is like Reish Lakish, not like Rabbi Eliezer, because usually the halacha is like Reish Lakish. But right now we have Reish Lakish on one side, and we have Rabbi Akiva who says the snake doesn't need 23. And Rabbi Eliezer agrees to him because Rabbi Eliezer also holds all animals don't need 23 except the ox. So now you have Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer who agree that you don't need 23 by a snake. So that means you have two rabbis versus Reish Lakish by the snake. And so the Rambam brings down the halakha. If a snake kills a person, it may be killed by anyone. And this is in accordance of Rabbi Akiva, which now becomes the majority opinion because Rabbi Eliezer agrees with him on this point. So therefore, comes out of halakha, all these animals you cannot kill until they kill somebody, because we do consider them as being tamed and controlled. And all of them have to be brought to court except for the snake. The snake, Rabbi Akiva holds is more dangerous than all, so you don't have to bring to court. And since Rabbi Eliezer holds all of them don't need 23, therefore the halacha would be that by a snake you do not need to bring him to court. You can kill him right away if he kills somebody. So far, so good. Any questions on this part? All right. Everybody got it? All right then. Fine. We have another two sugyot to go through. All right. Let's take a look. Ein danin. A tribe is not judged. What does this mean? Except by a court of 71. I mean, judging a whole tribe, you need 71 judges. You need a whole Sanhedrin Nagadim. Now, what does it mean? Hi Shevet Dechatu b'mai. What are the Shevet sin? What averah do they do? If you say they're Mehadel Shabbat, cannot be. When do we ever see the Torah make a difference between a person who sins and a community that sins? You never see this difference. Except for our Avodah Zarah. You never see in other mitzvot. How do you see it by Avodah Kachavim? Because you have what's called Ir Hanidachat. If a city goes wayward, if they all follow Avodah Zarah, we're going to see the parameters of this. The whole city has to be killed out with the sword. If one person does Avodah Zarah, he's judged separately, and he's judged with 23, and he's judged he's executed with stoning. But if it's Ir Hanidachat, it's killed with a sword. So that's where you see the difference. So when it says you have to judge the whole tribe, what are we talking about? Rather, we're talking about a shevet who all went after Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara says it means we're judging them as a majority, right? Because the whole shevet did it, we're judging them as a group. Kiman, who is this? Lo Kirbi Yoshia, but Lo Kirbi Yonatan. It's not Kirbi Yoshia, it's not Kirbi Yonatan. The time. Why? Ad Kama Osin in Hanidacha. In order to make a city be considered a wayward city that went against Hashem, it needs to be a city that has Yud V'Ad Kuf. Between 10 and 100 people that are serving avodah zarah. There's 10 to 100 people serving avodah zarah. You kill out the whole city by the sword. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. This is the word of Rabbi Yoshia. So you can have 1,000 people in the city. You have 10 to 100 people who serve avodah zarah. According to Rabbi Yoshia, you kill out the whole city by the sword. Rabbi Yonatan Omer. Rabbi Yonatan says, "Mikaf ve'atkuf ve'adurba shel shevet." No, it has to be between 100 and the majority of the shavets. Va'afir Rabbi Yonatan lo kamer elo rubo. And Rabbi Yonatan says only the majority. Aval kulo lo. But if a whole tribe went after avodah zarah, you did not kill them off. You only kill them off if it's between 100 and the majority of the tribe. So when our Mishnah said you would judge the whole tribe, what cases is it? Can't be Erin Hanidachat, because Erin Hanidachat is only if it's between either 10 to 100 or 100 to the majority of the tribe, but not if it's the whole tribe. So Rav Mata says, what's the case here that we're dealing with? We're not dealing with the whole shevet. We're dealing with the nasi of the shevet. We're dealing with the prince of the tribe. He did a sin of killed somebody or something like that, and he has to be judged for possible capital punishment. So then you have to bring him to a 71, the whole Sanhedrin Agad. Well, how do we know? It says when Yitro told Moshe Rabbeinu to make courts, he said, any big thing they'll bring to you. What does it mean, big thing? Stuff of a big person. Hainami Gadol, now in the sea is also a great person. Therefore, it's brought to the Sanhedrin Hagadol, because Moshe Rabbeinu is compared to the Sanhedrin Hagadol. Therefore, you would bring the cases of prestigious people like the prince to the whole Sanhedrin. Ulam Rabbi Elazar, Ula gives another explanation what it means judging the whole shevet. You know what it means? Vivayin alaskeda halot. Two Shvatim are arguing about territory, property. That belongs to me, this belongs to me, that belongs to you. And they have a border dispute. Where is their border? So they come to the bet. Then they have to come to the whole bet in Hagadol, the whole Sanhedrin Hagadol. V'chatchila shel Eretz Yisrael. And it's like when they first came into Eretz Yisrael. Matchilata shevatim echad. Just as in the beginning, they split the Eretz Yisrael by 71 judges. Avkan shivim ve'echad. So too now, if they have a border dispute, they need the 71. That's what it means you judge the shevet. Gemara says, when they did originally, they did lotteries. They had the urim tumim that lit up. So you need to have all these things, and all of Israel was there. If you want to compare it to the beginning, so then all of it should be there. The urim tumim, the lottery, Kol Yisrael. And since we don't have that, that cannot be the case. Therefore, it doesn't mean that's what the case of shevet when it's a border dispute. Rather, it is good the way the Rav Matna explained the Mishnah, that it means the Nasi, the prince of the shevet, when he did something that's Chayav Mitah, he's judged by 71 judges. Ravina says no. You can learn really, it's l'olam b'shevet shehudach. It's really if a whole shevet goes after avodah zarah. Now you just told me it cannot be that, because there has to be between 10 to 100, 100 to a majority of the tribe, but not if it's the whole tribe. Although we said you cannot judge it as a wayward city that went against Hashem and certain avodah zarah because everybody's doing avodah zarah, then it's not considered a shevet hanidahat. But that's only for the punishment part, that it's not going to be with a sword. Rather, they're judged as a community, but they're going to be punished as individuals with tekilah and not with the sword. They're not going to get the punishment as a tzibor, as a rabbim, but rather they're going to get the punishment of a yachid, but they will be judged as a rabbim, as a group. It says you take out the man or the woman and you bring them to the shah, the gates. Man or woman you bring out. But you don't take out the whole city to the court. Man and woman you take out to your gates. But you do not take out the whole shevet to the gates. So this shows that you can judge them all as a group, but they will be punished as individuals. Last sugya for today. I believe this is the last one. Yes. Lo et nevi hasheker. A false prophet. Someone who makes believe he's talking in Hashem's name. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of people like that today. They're talking as if they know what they're talking about, as if Hashem is talking to them, and Hashem is not talking to them. So, and he's a Navi Sheker. Navi Sheker has to be judged with 71 judges. How do we know this? Make a gezerah shava, the word hazada, willfully, to a gezerah shava of a zaken mamre, someone who went against Sanhedrin Agadol. He was a chacham himself, and he went against Sanhedrin Agadol. Sanhedrin Agadol said a psak and halacha, and he said no. He becomes a zaken mamre. Mala halan, mishivim ve'achad, just as there. The Torah says that for a chacham to be executed for going against the bet din, he had to have gone against the bet din of 71. So Hazada comes tells that he also too, a Navi Sheker has to be judged by 71. Gemara says, but 1 second. But the word willfully is written only in connection with sentencing the sage to death. And rebellious sage's death is imposed by a court of 23. The Gezerah Shavah should then teach that a Navi Sheker is judged by 23. What does this mean? When you're comparing the Navi Sheker to the Zaken Mamre, the Hazadah portion of the Pasuk is talking about how he went against 71, but then he was judged by 23. So therefore, you should say that the Navi Sheker also should need 23 if you're making Gezerah Shavah, because he's the Zaken Mamre is judged with 23. El Amr Resh Lakish says no, that's not the word we use for Gezerah Shavah. The Gezerah Shavah is davar. There's a word matter, the word of speech, davar. Just as the sage must rebel against the great Sanhedrin through his words, so too a false prophet is judged by that court. We have two psukim that have the word davar, and that part is talking about Zakim Amrei going against the court and not the sentencing part of 23 judges. So that's where we learned it from, that you need 71. Zakim Amrei goes against 71. And the Navi Sheker is judged by 71. So now the Gemara says, so why don't you do the other thing now? Now that you know Navi Sheker has to be 71, use the other Gezerah Shavah, Hazada, to tell us the same way the Navi Sheker is 71 judges him, so too should be by Zaken Mamre. The Gemara answers, you cannot just learn any Gezerah Shavah that you want. Davar gamir. The word davar that compares 71 to 71, this one is a established, passed down Gezerah Shavah. Hazada, lo gamir. But the word hazada, even though we brought it down first, it's actually not a real Gezerah Shavah. We don't have it from anywhere. Therefore, we cannot learn from there that Zaken Mamre also needs a 71. So therefore, the halacha comes out, and Navi Sheker is judged by 71, but Zaken Mamre is judged by 23. But he has to have gone against the Sanhedrin Agadol, and then he's the 71, and then he's judged by a court of 23. Okay, I will tell you this is where we're getting up to for today. Any questions? Any comments?